Today we're going to do solving equations, and in addition to that we'll review. Chelsea, could you get the door, please? So this is like in algebra when we did solving equations, we did it in like little pieces, like different examples, but for Algebra 2 we're really just like throwing you in. Yeah. So we're solving linear equations though, so nothing too weird. But the basic rule, rather than go through all the different justifications for what we do, our basic rule is do the same thing to both sides. If you do the same thing to both sides and you do it mathematically correct, you should be fine. Now sometimes we will look at something and we'll be like they're getting an infinite loop where we don't know what to do, so we want to avoid that. Another thing that we'll want to be aware of is if we're in an equation we can clear out fractions. Now I don't know if that comes up in any examples that we have this early, but that is a step that we'll want to do. We want to combine like terms and get the variable to one side. And finally, the most important thing, we are using inverses. Inverses, like we talked about earlier, they undo. So when we're solving an equation in BASIC, now it's not always the case, but basically we are doing the order of operations but backwards. So let's say we have something like this. C equals 5/9 parentheses F minus 32. And you should recognize this as a way to change Fahrenheit to Celsius. That's a chemistry equation, science equation. So let's follow this. Do we see a fraction here? Yes, we cleared out. Now this is actually all one term, so I'm going to clear out the fraction by multiplying everything by 9. So I get 9c. Now these 9's cancel. You see what I'm saying? So I have 5 times f minus 32. Now what will I do with the 5? Distribute. Okay, so I have 9c equals 5f and 32 times 5. Now I didn't really say what I was doing. I'm solving for f. Solve for f. That's what I'm doing. So I get 10, 160 minus 160. I'll add the 160 now. And then finally, divide by what? Divide by 5. And I divide everything by 5, each term. So at the end, I ran out of room, but I'll get 9/5 C plus 32. Now it is faster if you distribute this 5/9 at the beginning, but then you have to deal with fractions. So that's why I like clearing it out better. So in this case, we just switched from changing from Fahrenheit to Celsius to an equation that would now allow us to change from Celsius to Fahrenheit.
I have a question. How do you get 32 again?
Because when I divided by 5, 160 divided by 5 would be 32. Yeah. So I added my 160 and then I divided everything by 5. So it just goes back to the way it was, except it's plus now. All right, so this type of equation is called literal. It's a literal equation because we don't actually have a number here. We have some letters involved. I am going to spend a lot more time on literal equations because those are harder than the regular ones. Okay, let's do another literal. I see that I have assigned you the odds tomorrow. So, not today. They are not assigned today. So I'll do some evens. So let's say I have r, a little r. Boy, this is not going to get confusing at all. Plus another little r, but it's slightly different. Those are subscripts. So
That R1 and R2?
yep. So we do use that when we want to talk about a quantity that has some sort of similar meaning. And we're going to solve this for R. So we want capital R. That's not going to be confusing at all. We want capital R.
That's R4.
So this is capital R, parentheses, R1 plus R2,
That one.
R1, R2.
And solve for R.
And we're solving for R. Solve for capital R. As nasty as it looks, actually, there's only one thing I need to do. This R is being multiplied by this group, right? So how do I undo multiply? Divide. So I'm going to divide by the entire group. It's okay to divide by an entire group. I divide that whole group by both sides, on both sides. So I get capital R equals R1, R2, over R1 plus R2. And I'm done.
Wouldn't that cancel out though?
I'm glad you asked. No. And here's why not. We can never, ever, ever cancel through addition or subtraction. We can only cancel. We can only cancel through one operation, multiplication. Now, you don't need to write this down, but I want you all watching. Let's say I ended up with this. 5x plus 15y all over 20. Now Kelsey's right. We can and should cancel. But it's not as easy. Now, if you're going to shortcut it, you just beware you might end up doing some canceling here that you're not allowed to do. But here's what you actually do. We see what's common between these two things. A 5. So we factor out a 5. And now, what operation do I have here? I have a multiplication, and I can cancel through multiplication. So I could cancel this 5 and that 20 and get a 4. So when I see in something like this, where they all have a common thing I can divide by, I divide by it. Now, why can't I do that here? There is no common thing between all of these. You might think R1, but if I do that, I've canceled through addition. You see what I mean? So we do want to be careful with that, so we can't do that. That was an awesome question, thank you. Let's do another literal, and then let's get to some better ones. Let's do this one. A equals 1/2 h times b1 plus b2. We're going to solve that one for b2. If you don't recognize that, that is the area of a trapezoid. Yes, you've been through geometry, so I expect you to know your area formulas. So A equals BH for a box. A equals BH over 2 for a triangle. A equals for a kite. D1, D2 divided by 2. Area of a trapezoid is this one. I like writing that H times B1 plus B2 all over 2. You don't need to write all those down. Just understand you are expected to know them. Area of a circle, pi r squared. So your book's not going to teach you those, is what I'm getting at there. All right, so we're solving for B2. B2 is right here. See B2. I need to get that alone. I also see a fraction here, so what should I do? Clear. So I'm going to multiply everything by 2. So that half goes away, and I have my h and a b1 plus a b2. Just clearing the fractions makes life a lot easier. Now what do you think you should do?
Divide by h.
Yeah, we can divide by h. I'm actually going to do this two ways, and both of these ways are equally correct. We're going to do what Lila just said, divide both sides by h. So we have 2a divided by h equals b1 plus b2. And do you see how when we divide by h, this is what we get? The h's would cancel and I have an h over here. Now what would I do to get b2 alone?
The b1.
Subtract b1. So I have 2a over h minus b1. That gives me b2. And this is correct. That's fine. When you're doing literals, there's often these little things that happen where you get an answer that might not be what I read, but it's correct.
Wait, what did you do with b2?
I didn't do anything to b2. I subtracted b1 to get b2 alone. So we divided by h. So that got rid of the h, and then we subtracted b1. So here's another thing we could do. We could distribute the h, subtract this whole thing. And then divide by h. These are the same. Well, how are they the same? Get a common denominator and combine. And the common denominator would be an h. So I could change this one to this one. I'm not worried about whether you can do that yet. We will go over that. But understand that both these answers are correct. If you do mathematically correct things to both sides, you'll be fine. Now I understand literal equations are really hard. So let's switch over to just solving a regular equation. Let's do that. So don't worry if you didn't get all that down, that's fine. Let's say we have 7w plus 2 equals 3w plus 94. And let's say we have 5x minus 9 equals 8 minus 2x. And we're solving, of course, for w, solve for x. But then after this, we'll do like maybe 2 more examples, and then we'll just be done with this for today. We'll review for our quiz. So on this one, ideas, if you struggle with equations, do build this wall. That helps you to recognize when things are, what side things are on. There's nothing to combine on the left or the right. So we want the variable on one side. So Caroline, what should we do?
Subtract 3w.
Subtract 3w. And then, what should we do?
Subtract 2.
Subtract 2. And finally, divide by 4. How do we show division? We do this fraction bar, divide. So w equals, yep. How do I check this if I wanted to? Yep, I take it and I plug it back in. And actually we might talk about, if we have time, remind me, calculator, how to check our work on our calculator. That would be very useful. And you have the same brand as us, the Casio? Okay, so
It's in the car.
it's in the car, but maybe tomorrow. You don't, you're special? Yeah. Alright, what should we do over here? Add the 2x. I like to keep the variable positive if possible. Now what? Add the 9. And finally, 5 by 7. And a yucky answer there. Let me just check to make sure the book has that same answer. Yep, it's good. Yeah, we'll do one more, and then we'll call it for this. We'll just do one more. I think that's sufficient to teach solving equations. There's not much more that I could tell you, other than declaring fraction stuff and practice that. The literals we'll work on a lot tomorrow after your quiz.
Are there going to be literal answers?
No, This stuff that we just did, not on the quiz. We'll work on that after your quiz tomorrow. Let's do.
So it's just patterns and stuff?
Yeah, pretty much. So this gets into something that we need to be able to use that distributive property. So we do need our properties, know our properties on the quiz, distributive, associative, commutative, all that stuff. All right, what should we do here?
Distributive.
Make sure we get that to every term. So I get 7x plus 7. And I get 5 plus what?
8x times 4.
Yep. I'm going to combine like terms. See, these x's are on the same side, so I combine those, and I get 4x plus 7. And then this 5 and that negative 4, take the sign with a number. Now what? Yes. Now it's not wrong to subtract the 8x, but again, you make your life a lot easier if you try to keep your variable positive. Because for equations, it's not going to matter what side the variable is on, but when we do inequalities, it will. We'll want our variable on the left for inequalities. We'll subtract the 1 and divide by 4. We get 6/4, which we just please remember to reduce. That killed us last year, not reducing. So 3/2. You see the book agrees. Book agrees. Yeah. So please reduce. Reduce, reuse, recycle. All right, that's good.